Not only were they the first prospects in history to make it to the NBA through a private prep program like Overtime Elite, as we saw in one of our last videos, Amen and Ausar were the first twins in NBA history to be selected in the top 5 of the same draft. But even though they're a carbon copy of each other, both in looks and playstyle, it's clear that there are certain differences between them. Because in the end, it's the details that serve to choose one prospect over another in the draft, and even more so in the case of two players who start from almost the same skill set. And the truth is that even though Ausar's been superior during the Overtime Elite training camp, achieving 2 MVPs in the finals of the circuit, the Houston Rockets decided to draft his brother. But who really is Amen Thompson, and what are the reasons for him to be selected in the draft before Ausar? Two twins being able to be drafted in the top 5 of the same class is, as we've already said, is something that's never been seen before. Something that's only possible if we're talking about players bordering on excellence. As fate would have it, both Amen and Ausar share a middle name, XLNC, which serves as an acronym for the term they've tried to do justice to throughout their lives. Born in California in January 2003, the twins were the nephews of Mark Thompson, who represented Jamaica in the 400-meter hurdles at the 1992 Summer Olympics. Another little-known fact about the older Thompson twin is that his actual birth name is Ames. Their family was well aware of the sacrifice that high-level sports entails, and did not hesitate to move to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so that the boys could start playing basketball a year early. Pinecrest School became the new home for two players who from the very beginning were able to make a place for themselves in the team's starting 5. Amen averaged 16.9 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 3.7 assists per game during his sophomore year. Averages that rose to 20.5 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 4.4 assists per game in his junior year, but were far from the superior stats of the younger twins' high school career. Pinecrest was facing Santa Fe High School in the final that could mean the 4th state trophy in high school history. And things, well, they weren't going well. With 45 seconds left in the game, the Thompson brothers' high school was down by 8 points. But then, it just happened. Amen took over the game in a wild way and got the win for his team by a final score of 90-83 after double overtime. Of the team's 90 points, he scored 43. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And after proving their worth, recruiters knew that they were ready to excel at the next level, which was none other than Division I. Amen received a 90 rating on ESPN, which translated into becoming a 5-star prospect. Interestingly, because of his style of play, he was listed as a point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. Both twins made public their desire to continue together, so the colleges knew that they had to offer 2 spots on the same team. Not that this was a problem, since whichever team took the jackpot was going to take 2 of the best prospects in the entire country at the price of 1. Alabama, Arizona, Auburn, Arizona State, Kansas, the options were not few. However, the decision that the Thompson brothers made was surprising to say the least. It's a fact that traditionally, there was only one way to get to the NBA, and that was through the NCAA. But then, European players started coming from some of the best foreign leagues around the world. Then it was high school players who in some cases looked ready enough to make the jump directly to the NBA. But when this avenue was banned after the Malice at the Palace disaster, players were forced to go either to Division I or to a foreign professional league. Fortunately, this has changed. The professionalization of the sectors allowed the arrival of independent agencies and circuits focused on the professional development of players. Institutions that offer not only a platform to play against some of the best young players from around the world, but to guide them on and off the court with knowledge that'll be vital to their career. The G League team Ignite is a perfect example. And Overtime Elite, the Atlanta circuit that the Thompson twins decided to choose for their pre-NBA development, was the first outside agency to convince some of the best prospects in the world into its program. During the first of his 2 years at Overtime, Amen averaged 14 points, 6.6 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 2.1 steals per game. Amen and Ausar's team finished second, losing the final by a score of 52-45, in which Amen scored 13 points. In the second season, Amen was selected by his brother Ausar with the first pick of the league's internal draft. His averages rose to 16.4 points, 5.9 rebounds, 5.9 assists, and 2.3 steals per game, earning him all OTE first-team honors. And although the regular season and finals MVP went to his brother, Amen got a game-winning layup at the buzzer in an 80-78 win during Game 2 of those finals. Both brothers lived up to their expectations at Overtime Elite and began preparing for the 2023 draft, which also included names like Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, or Brandon Miller. This June night would also be the first time the twins would be separated since they started playing basketball in high school. Amen was eventually selected 4th overall in the draft, just one spot ahead of Ausar, who would be selected 5th overall by the Detroit Pistons. And knowing that the careers of both would be closely watched for their pioneering decision, their expectations were not exactly low. Both twins would begin their careers on two teams that, at the moment, didn't have much pressure to win. But surprisingly, the Houston Rockets had a much better start to the season than anyone could have imagined. The team, led by Ime Udoka, started the season on a high note, putting themselves in playoff positions in the Western Conference, from which they've ended up falling out of. But the team is much more competitive than expected. Amen, meanwhile, suffered a second-degree sprain of his left ankle, forcing him to miss 20 of the Rockets' first 24 games this season. But even so, the guard's been an important part of Houston's rotation, so there have been opportunities to see him in action. In 16 minutes of playing time per game, the elder Thompson is averaging 6.3 points, 4.1 rebounds, 2 assists and 1 steal per game, shooting 46% from the field, but a disastrous 13% on three-pointers. He was a player who was globally considered to be a less NBA-ready prospect than his brother Ausar, so this performance isn't representative of his potential. But really, why was he drafted before him if he's considered the worst player of the two currently? Neither's a good shooter. That's always something that's always raised doubts among the scouts. But while Ausar is a more superior defensive player, it's true that Amen has some skills that his brother may not have. The biggest advantage the Rockets guard has is his offensive potential, something he demonstrated as we've seen since his time at Pinecrest. He's an exceptional driver with explosiveness to spare to get him to the rim, and enough athleticism and quality to finish with ease. At 6'7", he's taller than his brother, and there are very few guards who can contain him. If he continues to improve these aspects over time and can improve his outside shooting, he can become a solid offensive player in the NBA. But also another characteristic trait of Amen in which he's superior to his brother is in vision. He's shown the ability to find his teammates with ease. He's able to generate advantages with his speed and exploit them with his passing skills. A facilitator who could have a very novel role in today's league schemes, and that's something the Houston Rockets have certainly noticed. So if there's one thing the modern NBA has shown us, it's that the only rule is that there are no rules. We're seeing more and more unique players with unseen characteristics that break all the molds that traditional basketball is used to, and who can do things that no player their size is supposed to be able to do. Amen is a sort of modern-day Sean Livingston who has a lot of work to do to find a niche in the league, but has plenty of talent to do so. But his style of play isn't the only thing special about him. His method of preparation for the NBA has been completely pioneering, and this could be a game-changer in the training processes that future athletes go through during their final years prior to arriving in the best league in the world. In an era in which the NCAA is being criticized more than ever for the simple fact of making money thanks to young people who don't see a dollar, these preparation agencies such as Overtime Elite can mean a before and after in North American basketball. And who knows if they could spread around the world. But to do that, they need something. They need their products to look good in the global basketball market, and Amen and Ausar are right now the ones responsible for good publicity. Publicity that could change the future of an entire generation.